Hello,
Hi.
welcome to NouTalks podcast on the couch. On the first episode of Episodes with Friend,
Hey, I'm the friend.
my friend today is Lina. We've been friends for so many years, and as you've read on the title, on this episodes we're going to be talking about us moving out of our parents' houses because this is a topic that I know a lot of people want to hear about since so many of my friends, and I think your friends too, Lina, that they've moved abroad or they're afraid of moving abroad or not necessarily like outside of their home country, but also just, getting an apartment in the same city as their parents. And I know that in foreign Western countries, it's very normal for people to leave their parents' houses at 18, but it's less normalized in the MENA region, especially in Morocco, because we're both Moroccan. And I know it's a hard conversation to have, and so many people do not talk about it with their parents, and they usually would just leave their parents' houses to either study because the school is not in the same city as their parents, or they move out of their parents' houses if work is not in the same city as their parents. So this podcast episode is going to be not necessarily in depth into our experiences, but just we wanted to answer some of the frequently asked questions that people, might have, and we might be crying at the end of this episode.
I don't want to. Please stop me from being too emotional.
What I thought would be great to start this conversation with is, give you a little bit of our background stories of moving out. So do you want to go?
Yeah, I can start. I moved out at 18. I went to Canada, which was not like the closest place to go to. I think when you move to France, like for a lot of Moroccans, it's still like like a comfort zone in a way. Not really, but you can go back and see your parents from time to time during the year. But in Canada, like I did not see them for the whole year. So I think I have a lot of things to share. Like it's obviously very expensive to come back, and yeah, for a whole year, haven't seen my parents. I was 18, and then I came to France. But then even in my like journey in France, I left for exchange programs, internships abroad. So I've done a lot of moving. I think I'm now an expert on like how to how to adapt in a new place and how to, maybe let go of your like the things you're used to and your parents and your family, the people who are around, like how do you keep a relationship with them. So yeah, we will go into all of this when we answer questions, but yeah, I'm an expert.
I love that. We need an expert in this conversation. So Lina did different countries than I have. And you guys know I didn't really do a lot of moving abroad. I did it literally once. I moved from Morocco to France. I did summer school, but it's
Yeah,
not
I went to
moving.
the US for a bit.
That's just summer school.
Okay,
You
okay.
knew you'd go back.
Yeah.
So here in this conversation today, we'll be talking about literally just packing up all your
Yeah.
shit and, calling somewhere else home.
Exactly.
So this is the background story. I moved to France. I didn't move at 18, so that's maybe interesting to mention.
Yeah.
I moved until I was 21 or 22. So that's a bit later than you, like a couple of years.
That's a good age, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start there because I know one of the questions that was frequently asked is, what is the best age to move out of your parents' house? For you, it's after your 20s.
I think so because of my personal experience, but at the same time, I don't think I would have lasted until my my 20s. Basically, I've always wanted to move.
Yeah.
So I finished high school when I was 17 and I wanted to move then. But then my parents were like, okay, wait at least a year. And that year was terrible for me just because I've always like pictured myself moving out as soon as I finished high school. I will go into details on that later, maybe for the other questions. So yeah, when I say that year, like it didn't feel great for me. So of course it depends on you, on your personal goals. So I don't think there's a perfect age. It's more about like what personal goals have you set for yourself? Like why do you want to move? Is it just, I mean, you need to have a goal behind it. When you move just because everyone else is moving or just because you feel like people are judging you for not moving, like that's not good, because moving is so hard that if you don't have something to live for, like that you're striving for, moving is not like a good decision for you, no matter what the age is. But yeah, I think that when you're in your early 20s, that's like the best time, just because, you know, that's when you're learning the most about yourself. That's when you're ready to actually like make some changes, and you're like aware of your bad habits and all of that. I think at 18, I wasn't like that mature, but I'm still glad I did it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I agree 1,000%.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a perfect age to move.
yeah.
I personally think that obviously you shouldn't move at like 5.
I saw a
But like,
TikTok about a girl who actually like moved at 10. Like she told her like her parents, I don't know, they work in some diplomatic
okay.
something, and they were going to Paris, and she was like, "No, I want to go to Iceland." And then like her parents let her, because they were originally from Iceland, and they just left her with like a cousin or I don't know what. And like she was telling this whole story about how she learned to live like without her parents and alone at 10.
To be
And I was like,
independent at
what the
10.
hell is this?
Oh
So
my
I'm like,
God.
maybe, yeah, so it exists.
Right? I actually, I mean, there's so much. I think it depends on people and their
Yeah.
personality type. Like, for example, this girl clearly was already ahead of her age. You know what I mean? She's 10, but
10,
she's
dude.
probably like 30.
I didn't even walk in the park in front of my house when I was 10.
I literally wouldn't go out ever alone when I was 10. I really do think that each person is different in terms of like their emotional intelligence, their like maturity and independence. So I feel like some people are ready to move out at 16, and others are, you know, would be ready to move out at 30. So maybe not like in your 40s, but
Yeah.
I think there's like I don't think there's like a certain perfect age to move out. So that's my opinion. I do think that some people moved out of their parents' houses to go to boarding school in like high school or
Yeah.
like in their middle school. And that was a perfectly good experience for them. So I think that, as you said, I agree that the reason should be valid to move out. Like, don't just leave your parents' house because you
Yeah.
think it's the perfect time for you to just leave. You have to leave for a purpose. Maybe your purpose is to be independent and to, you know, live your own life. Maybe the purpose is actually to pursue your studies because, you know, the university you want to go to, or I don't
Exactly.
know, like the high school, whatever, it's in a different city or a different country. And so I think for me, I just think that the best time is during school. I think like going to school somewhere else is a good time to move out of
Yeah.
your parents' house. It's like kind of like a smooth transition instead of just like leaving your parents' house to do nothing or just to start a business or whatever. That's like a different story. But
Yeah.
like if you go to school, which you should be going to school, I
I
think,
mean,
yeah,
it depends.
no, I like for high school, like I'm talking about
Yeah.
people that are under 18 or a little bit above 18. I think you should be going to school, and it's a good thing that you're going to school. And I think that's a good age or a good reason to move out of your parents' house, to just go pursue your study somewhere, because it is a smooth transition, I feel. Like you're still in a, how can I say that? Like when you move out of your parents' house to do something that is structured, it helps. Like you're not
Yeah,
lost
yeah,
into
yeah.
the
I agree. And also,
wilderness.
it's an environment where a lot of people are actually moving. So you create like these small families. You have people that will support you because they're also alone. So it's definitely the easiest. But also, like, we're saying this because, like, honestly, from a position of privilege, I think in a lot of places it's really hard to just have the money to move during university. And like, I feel like growing up in Morocco, you said earlier that it's a hard conversation to have with parents, but I didn't feel that way in my environment personally, because I, like, everyone in my high school actually went abroad for their university. So I grew up in a like very different environment, maybe from so many other people. So it was just like a given that I would move out once I finished high school. It was never questioned. Like my parents didn't have to have the conversation with me. I never had to have the conversation with them. Um, it was just like you
Yeah,
will have a better future if you go study abroad, and that
yeah.
was a given. Sorry, like this is another
That's true.
conversation,
No, I get
but like I
that.
agree on the fact that yeah, university is the easiest if you are privileged enough to go then. But I think yeah, for a lot of people they need to have this financial independence first, and that's like what makes it harder to move out. I think a lot of questions maybe are about how much money do I need to have, how much this do I need to like to be able to move out. And in our case, maybe our parents were supportive in the sense that they paid for our rents when we were studying or something like that. And
100%.
I don't think we would have been able otherwise.
Yeah,
So I'm very grateful to them.
that's true. Me
Thank you,
too.
my parents.
Thank you, parents. I don't know if they're listening to this. Do your parents speak English?
They don't.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it's okay.
I'll tell
You
them, I
you can
think.
tell them. I'll tell them.
Okay.
But that's like that's really true
Yeah.
because we both in this episode come from a background. That's why we're abroad, actually. So we come from a background that is supportive and that is kind of like we were destined to
Yeah.
go abroad and like pursue our studies. But I think my background is a little bit different because so you went to French private school
Yeah.
in high school. Now that's like there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Embarrassing.
But no. Like it's interesting because we went to different high schools as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I went to Moroccan public school. So that's why I kind of like lived in an environment which was absolutely not automatic to go abroad. I didn't go abroad after high school. I went to high school, went to preparatory program in Morocco, did business school in Morocco, and then I came to France.
Yeah.
Whereas where you come from was automatic
I
to
think
go
in my
from,
whole class it was
literally,
just two people staying in Morocco.
which was like
And
shameful for them,
I
right?
stayed in Morocco for a year, and everyone was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Exactly.
And
So
especially because I was a good student, like it didn't compute in their mind. But I think there's a lot of opportunities like in Morocco, but
yeah,
we didn't know them because we are like in this little bubble if everyone goes abroad. So yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, and
depends on how you grew up, yeah.
exactly. And a lot of like private schools, especially like those who are of specific countries like French school, American school, Spanish school. A lot of people go there because they teach you and they prepare you to go to those countries
I think
after.
that was the reason why my parents like
We're
put me
ready.
there, because it's not like we do not come from a rich background, but they were like investing in my studies like from the get-go by putting me there because they just wanted to like for the doors to be easier to open. And
Yeah.
like in French high schools it's kind of, even if you have a bad grade you can still be accepted to a French university, compared to if like you're in a public Moroccan school, like you really need to be a really good student to
Yeah.
have the same opportunities. So that was kind of like an investment in my future, and I was always aware of it like ever since I was a kid. Like my parents put me here so I would go abroad and like do something great or whatever, like so that's why in my mind I think I've never really like sat down and been like, should I move or should I not move?
It
Because
was not
just
an
like
option.
it was not an option.
But I'm hearing you speak, and
Yeah.
I remembered some of the people that I know personally, whether they're from my family or people that I know. And the norm is that not everybody can afford to send their kids
Yeah.
abroad. I'm talking about Morocco, obviously, because that's where we're from. And, you know, got like since I went to a public school and a public preparatory program, like a college between brackets, I do know that a lot of people in my environment, they could not go abroad, and they went through a complete depression. And even though they went to Moroccan high school, like not high schools, Moroccan universities or Moroccan business schools, they completely ruined their life because they just didn't want to stay in Morocco, and of course they couldn't, right? So
Honestly, it happened to me that year that I stayed, like the one I told you between 17 and 18. I stayed honestly also for financial reasons because it wasn't an option for me to go at that time, and I've mostly applied to the UK, and it was just so expensive. I did not even end up going to the UK. So yeah, for a year, just to figure it out, to maybe save up a little bit more money, I stayed in Morocco. And honestly, yeah, I was a little bit depressed.
yeah,
I think when you plan on something for so long and when you associate that thing with success, because we have like this kind of culture also in Morocco that like you're gonna be more successful if you go abroad, and or like, oh, you've achieved something if
yeah.
you're accepted to a big university
It's like
abroad.
it's either that or
Yeah.
nothing.
And yeah, and I feel like we're all raised this way. Like even people who maybe don't have the means to go abroad, like it's so instilled in us, which I think is fucked up. I don't know if I can swear, but
You can.
but like even I think even in companies in Morocco, they would rather hire someone who did like a very big university in France compared to one in Morocco. So there's this kind of inequality that keeps going on, and we're all trained to hate like staying in Morocco, which is crazy. So yeah, I was depressed for that year for no reason because I was like also in preparatory classes. So I was like heading towards a future abroad
Yeah.
maybe. So I was not like doing something that was bad or anything, but I just like I couldn't compute it in my head. I saw it as a failure
Yeah.
because I wasn't abroad, which is crazy.
It is. And you know, like, besides this, like, going out of your parents' house to go study, which we both agree is the easiest way to transition, what do you think about the other reasons? Let's say, do you think it's a good idea to move out your parents' house, let's say after graduation, or you know, when you're working or you want to start a business? You know, what do you think about that? I know none of us went through it specifically because we both left our parents' houses to go study because it was such an easy transition for us.
Honestly, I have no opinion because I feel like it depends on the situation. As long as you have the financial means to move, and if you feel like you'll be better on your own, because honestly, if you start a business and you have a very supportive family and someone who has your back, like for all the extra stuff, maybe you want to put your 100% into your business and you don't have like time to actually be on your own, because people don't realize this, but living on your own is also a lot of hard work. And I think you realized
Yeah.
it when you moved out of your parents. Not that my parents did everything for me, but yes, it felt like it. Like, because when you have to clean and do your laundry and be on top of things all the time and do your groceries and cook and all of that, like it can feel like nothing because you're like everybody else is doing it, so why is it this overwhelming?
That's
But
true.
like when you maybe have something else on your plate, something so huge like building a business, maybe if you have a very supportive family where you feel like they're not like adding to your burden, like why would you move, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think this is a very personal question and personal choice, and I don't know if we can have opinion on that. Like I could say to people, do it when you have the means, do it when you feel like it, but I can't say like the other reasons if they're good or bad.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I agree. However, like, I'm like kind of trying to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
in general, do you think moving out of your parents' house is a good idea? That's the thing,
Me,
regardless
yes.
of the reasons. Why?
Yeah, I think we all need to live alone at some points,
Okay.
if we're able to. I think you learn so much about yourself, and you learn so much about. It's like when people say, "Oh, like you have to love yourself, you have to be good with your own like company and all of that." I think all of these things you only learn them when like live alone, and just this sense of responsibility, this sense of you are like in charge of your own life. I don't think you have this feeling fully when you don't live alone. Like when you depend on so many people, I don't think you realize it, but you shrink so many of your needs, and maybe you compromise a lot, and maybe there are things like you wouldn't even think of enjoying, but you don't even like try them because you're always with other
Yeah, you're
people.
not
So
alone.
I think yeah, like living alone makes you grow a lot
Yeah.
and teaches you a lot and like makes you more yourself. So for that reason alone, I would be like, yeah, move alone. And yeah, like when I lived here in France, I didn't actually live alone for all of it. I lived with my brother for a bit, and I was just like looking forward to being alone again, actually, because I'm like, yeah, like
You get used to it.
you get so used to it, and that's another thing. I don't know if we should talk about this, but sometimes I'm like, I'm too used to living alone. I love it so much that I don't know how, like everyone is thinks about building a family, living with a partner, all of that, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do all this because I'm just so used. Like I love it so much,
Yeah.
and I know there are a lot of people who feel really lonely. Like it depends on the people,
Yeah.
but I think because I had so many instances where I had to live with other people, where I had to compromise, where I had to, like I didn't feel fully like it was my place or fully free. So when I have it, like I kind of cherish it. And one other thing I want to talk about, I think when we move, when we move away from our parents, especially like as students or even like when we're working, like we have this sense of like it's temporary even when it's not. Just because, especially the first years, because like you associate home still with like your parents even though you moved. And so like that first year maybe you won't like buy stuff for your apartment, or you won't redecorate, or you won't make any big purchases because for you it's just temporary. And I feel like I struggled with this a lot because I was just my first year I was like, oh no, I'm gonna change this apartment, it's not the perfect apartment, I don't love it, like I just got it because I was like out of time. And so like I didn't buy anything there, and it didn't feel like home because like you stop yourself from purchasing things and like decorating and doing all of that because you feel like this should only be for your home. And that feeling of home takes time to like settle in because you still associate. I don't know if you felt that. I don't know. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. I feel like we put on hold
A lot of things. Yeah.
a lot of things, like settling in general. And I do feel like it depends on why you moved abroad as well. For example, if you, I know a lot of people just move out of their parents' houses, not necessarily abroad, even in like Morocco, for example, or in their own countries, and they'll just move to study and they know they'll come back. Or, they know the end goal is not to settle. And some other people move out of their parents' houses definitely, like indefinitely. I don't know how to say it, but forever. And I feel like for me personally, I still don't know where I'm headed.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is for people like us, and I know you relate to this,
Yeah.
because we don't know where we'll end up yet. So everything is temporary. And I know I've been saying this to my friend the other day.
Yeah.
I told him, so I just moved to this apartment, last
Yeah.
year. Literally, it's been a year. Do you know that the 12th of July is my
I
full
think you've
year.
done pretty great for a year. Like, it's
This
fully
is,
furnished,
it's
it
not.
looks nice, there's decorations everywhere. I swear you should have seen my first apartment in Paris. I bought a desk, you know, like those couches that open into a bed,
Yeah,
and
click
that's it.
clack.
Like, literally, that's it. And a lamp, and that was it for a year.
I cannot deal.
It was a very small apartment though. So for a year, that was it. No decoration, no frames, no pictures.
I mean, I understand that. It's just that I know. So you said earlier something super important, which
Yeah.
I kind of related to it a little bit, is that, you know, when you move abroad, you kind of leave your house, which is your home. That's where you grew up. Not necessarily grew up, but being around your
Your
family,
family, yeah.
it means it's home, right? So I know for a fact that when I moved out of my parents' house, I had to create my home elsewhere because I am a homebody. I need the place where I sleep, where I like eat, where I like chill, etc., to feel enough close to home for me to feel good. That's just my personal experience. I cannot be living in a hotel room forever or crashing somewhere for. I know I would not be complete. I would not be at ease. And honestly, I have to say this because when I moved out to school, I had my own apartment. It was when I was at business school. I rented my first apartment. It was in Rouen, right? So it was not in Paris. And I had a studio apartment, and I had to decorate it. I bought a plant. You know, I had my coffee space, and because I had to bring out with me little things to remind me of home, because it is tough, right? You said it. And so that's what I did, is that I had to make a space that kind of was at least home for me,
Yeah.
even though it's temporary. But I had to kind of like make, like, add little things because I'm already abroad. I'm already far from my parents. I'm already in a very foreign space. And so I kind of like just little signals and codes and reminders of
Yeah.
home. And for me, that's important. Even though, like, my current apartment, it's been a year and I literally still feel like it's temporary, even though I have my little things. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that we feel it's temporary because I'm still not sure where I'm headed, how much I'm staying here in this apartment or the city or country, etc. Even though, like, you know, we have plans and things like that,
Yeah.
it's still weird for us. But I'm pretty sure for other people, if it's permanent, then they'll buy in their apartments and settle in. I know we don't relate.
Yeah, but like, I just wanted to give this advice for people out there who are gonna
Yeah.
move, because I think they won't realize it at
Yeah.
first, but they're gonna struggle so much with like
That's
buying stuff that makes them feel like
100%.
home, like you said. For me, like, it
Yeah.
took me so long to do it,
To
because
do
just
that.
because I, as I said, first apartment felt like it was temporary. I was just there to sleep, and I didn't consider it as a space that could bring me joy. For me, like, it was maybe what I will do outside that will bring me joy, and I'll just come back to sleep. And then the second apartment, I was living with someone else, my brother, basically. And so I was
Well,
like,
that's something that
it's
reminds you of home.
temporary. I mean, he was the one that reminded me of home. Exactly. Like, I didn't feel like I was far from my family by living with him, but the place itself did
Yeah.
not feel like my own.
Yeah.
And it was always like feeling like it was temporary. Like, I did not buy a lot of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept pushing away, like, buying a TV, which
Yeah.
is crazy. Like, I didn't have a
Yeah,
TV
I don't
for
have a TV
years.
either.
I mean, I did not need a TV, but like, no TV, no projector, no
Yeah.
nothing. And I wanted one. Like, it's not like I didn't want one, but it was like, well, if I buy it now and I just move next month, like, what's the point?
Yeah, that's true.
And it was just like, I stopped myself from doing that. So yeah, advice for people:
I get that.
go for it.
Yeah.
Make your place feel
Yeah.
like home. I think that's when you will
it
like
would be,
enjoy
like,
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the little things you mentioned earlier is the house chores and the errands. I don't know how people live right now. I know that we do help at home when we live with our parents, and people help in different degrees. but still, your parents make most of the decisions there.
Yeah.
You're literally just executing. You don't have to think about things.
I didn't have to do groceries. I
You don't
didn't
have
have
to do
to
groceries.
cook.
Like, I want to say one of the things
Yeah.
that are, because people understand that chores is a big part of living alone, you guys.
Yeah.
It is huge.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the things that really stuck with me is the amount of meals I have to make for myself to
Yes. I'm
survive.
like, oh my God.
I have to, like, wait, I have to make sure to eat 3 times a day or more. And I have to eat things that are consistent, that are
I
varied.
gotta be honest with your listeners. I still haven't figured it out.
Me
I
neither.
am still. I'm spending half of my salary on Uber Eats.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I was just. I don't. I don't understand how people do it all. Because I'm like, it takes so long.
It does.
When I want to cook something, like just like purchasing the ingredients and bringing it
Yeah,
back home
doing the
and
dishes.
peeling the stuff and cooking it and waiting for it to cook properly
yeah.
and doing the dishes. I'm like, this is like
It's a
this is
full-time
taking
job.
4 hours of my life and I have a job.
That's true.
So like I don't know. And
get
if you
it.
want to go out after work and if you want to have a social life, like how much time do you spend being social versus how much time do you spend being at home to maintain your home?
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing to balance. And what I wanted to say, because I thought that you were going to ask about expectations versus
Yeah.
reality.
Go ahead.
Before moving out, I thought that like by being alone, I would be like more free and I would just like go out a lot and do all the things that I didn't feel free enough to do when I was not living alone. But then when you live alone, you realize that you actually have a pretty boring life. Not boring life, like, of course, I still go out, I still have friends, but like, you actually stay at home a lot
Yeah.
more than you think.
That's really
And
true.
yeah, like, don't expect, I don't think you as a person is gonna like change drastically
No.
because you moved out. Like for people who are homebodies and introverts and all of that, like you're just gonna be introverted in another
Yeah.
country. So yeah, I mean maybe it can improve it a little bit. I definitely agree, like it does improve it, but like don't expect like your lifestyle to like flip head over heels. Like I don't know if you
100%.
can say head over heels, but whatever.
It's okay.
Like don't expect it to flip completely because
Yeah, it
it's not
doesn't.
gonna flip.
I mean,
It's just gonna be a lot of times. Actually, you're gonna find yourself staying at home more just because you have to do more stuff for the house. You know?
that's true. I think it happens to me too. I was, I mean, listen, if you are a student, I have to say, there are definitely a lot of things going on. It depends on your like school, and it also depends on the friends you make. I have
Yeah.
to point that out because I know for sure that when I was around people that were always doing stuff, then you will be doing stuff with them, even though of course you're gonna stay home, etc. But I do agree that as you grow and as you like start having a job, and you would want to like stay home more because you're just an adult and you're tired. You know what I mean? You spend
For
most
me,
of
like the opposite happened actually. When
Really?
I first moved alone, like my first year, I actually didn't do much. And now that I'm working and everything, I feel like it's also a financial thing, maybe.
It is.
Like, because before it was my parents' money and I was just so scared to spend. And like, I just like always felt guilty to be spending money on like fun things, maybe. Like,
But
I don't
fun
know.
things didn't cost
but-
much when you were a student. Let's be honest.
Like, it was not expensive, but I mean, like, maybe I did not allow myself to do everything.
I get that.
And now that I'm more of an adult and it's my own money and my own time, I do allow myself to do everything I can.
You guys, you have to know that Lina is somebody that does a lot right now. Like you're never home. You're literally never home.
Yeah, I travel a lot. I go out a lot.
Because she's a strong, independent woman.
Yes. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but honestly, I do agree on the, the reality versus expectations of course, a lot of us think that once we leave our parents' houses, because we have a lot of freedom, that we'll be doing so much. I'm sure a lot of people do that. It's just from both our experiences. of course, we're still the same people doing
Yeah.
so many things we still don't do. However, we can go out, you can stay longer hours, you have
Yeah.
nobody to report to. I think that's true.
Yeah.
But you have to know, guys, this is not something that's just, here, you have your freedom, and then if you're not a responsible person, you might be
Exactly.
using your freedom wrong. We do not recommend that. I do think
I
that,
think that, yeah, that's what I meant basically. Like,
yeah,
you have your freedom, but you have to be aware, like, you have to be aware of your financial limitation, of your time restrictions, of all your responsibilities. Like, that's
yeah,
what I meant. Like, removing yourself from like your parents and that environment, it does not absolve you from every limitation. Like, that's what I meant basically. Like, I didn't go out as much as I expected to when I first moved out, just because of like other restrictions. And then maybe later when I started working for the first time, it was just, I was so busy that maybe, like, you were just going home and coming back
yeah,
to, like, you were just, sorry, going to work and coming back home. Like, a lot of people don't see that part. Like, I'm thinking about a lot people who stayed, for example, in Morocco, like, that are from my family or something like that. They would be like, "Oh, you must be, doing the most." Like, especially those years. Now I'm doing the most. They can say that, but like those years where it was just like grinding type of life, and they were just expecting me to do everything and like to
yeah.
be everywhere. And I was just like, guys, like, I go to work, and then when I'm done with work, I'm so tired.
When I'm done with work, I'll be working
Yeah.
again.
And
That's
it's
true.
like, you don't realize how it is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that so people don't idealize being alone. But as I said, I love living alone, so I'm not being negative. I think you still, if you know how to manage your time, you still can do all the stuff you want to do, compared to when you have to, compromise with someone else, and when you have to ask someone
Yeah.
else for permission. So yeah, it is still better. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, don't expect like
Yeah.
fun every day.
And I agree with that. And I want to add one of the things to expect when you move out of your parents' houses, when you move out of your parents. Can we say just when you move out of your parents?
Yeah.
So one of the things to expect when you also move out of your parents' house is that you think that you can do whatever you want whenever you want
Mm.
and just spend your money however you want. And I
Mm.
think one of the things that people don't realize how hard
Mm.
it is to make those decisions for yourself
Mm-hmm.
wisely. It
Mm.
is so easy
Mm.
to just throw things around, spend your time doing whatever you want,
Mm.
sleeping all day.
Mm.
But the reality is, your life is not going to turn out well. You'll
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
issues. You will struggle to find a job. You will
Mm.
struggle with your studies.
Mm.
Like the
I've
next
been honestly,
step,
I've been through that. Like, my once again, that first year was just so brutal. So be aware if like you're not. Uh, I personally didn't make smart
yeah,
decisions. For example, when it comes to food, and it was just like eating pizza all the time and eating all of that. Like, sure, I'm a student. It's more convenient. It was cheap there. Like, in Canada, honestly, fast food is sometimes cheaper than cooking at
oh,
home.
yeah,
So
of
you're
course,
just like get into that habit, and it just like gained so much weight. And I know like there's like a lot of expressions about like gaining weight on that first year of college. And yeah, like, it does happen to a lot of people because they don't realize how much effort our parents put into
yeah,
our diet, because it was just like natural for us to have vegetables and all of that. Especially in Morocco, like, our diet is actually so good.
yeah,
Like, because vegetables and all of that is more affordable and just accessible to more people than in actually Western
sure,
countries that you would think are doing better than, I mean, they're doing better, like,
yeah,
financially,
yeah,
economically, but like in terms of diet, like, I feel like eating healthy is kind of a privilege in
yeah,
certain countries like the US,
of course,
Canada, all of that. So yeah, I made a horrible decision when it came
yeah,
to food. Gained so much weight, destroyed my self confidence for a bit, and also like I've always been really bad at like sleep schedules, and it just got worse when I was alone because there was no one to like actually like
tell
be
you,
like, stop it, you go
Yeah,
sleep.
that's the
And yeah,
thing.
I was just like watching my shows, sleeping at
For
4
sure.
a.m.
Yeah.
And then I had to wake up the next morning. But like when I did it like the whole year. And of course, when you're young, you don't realize how, like, the impact it's having on you.
Yeah.
And I still, honestly, I still have the shit sleep schedule, let's be honest. But like that year, I destroyed my body.
I get that.
By the end of the year, when I came back to Morocco that summer, I swear, like I destroyed my body in 1 year.
I get that. Those are good examples because I think, yeah, people do not realize how hard it is to be responsible for yourself. You're a human being that is supposed to, either in terms of nutrition, like you have to take care of yourself, you have to eat healthier, etc., which we're still struggling with until today. But also, I feel like one of the things that we don't realize is how much struggle it is to make good financial decisions. And I'm gonna just say straight away, I'm still struggling today. Like, I was a student, and I think honestly, for me, it was easier to manage my money as a student because I did have a limited budget
Yeah, same.
and it was my parents' money. And of course, I felt accountable
Yeah.
to spend it well, and I couldn't, like, I was afraid to ask them for more. And so you feel 100% like it's your parents' money and you have to spend it well, right? What I want to emphasize and I want to really like put out there is how hard it is, just like as you said, it's how hard it is to take care of yourself and make wise decisions, because it is easy to make easy decisions, sleeping all day, not spending your money well, going out all day and night, whatever, hanging out with whoever, etc. The and those decisions will have consequences. However, I think the hardest part is to make the right decisions at the right time without having your parents tell you what to do. You can always call them, of course. It's like easier now. You can always call them, you can always ask their advice. And I know a lot of my friends, they tell everything to their parents, and
Yeah.
their parents are aware of literally
Same.
everything they're
Me.
doing, right?
But it took a while to reach that point. I don't know if we can go into this conversation, but
What is
I was
it?
just like when I first moved
Yeah.
out, I actually didn't talk to my parent that much, and I don't think it's a good idea. Once again, do not follow my example. Yeah, I was in Canada, so like time zones, it was a little bit more difficult than maybe here. But I just used that as an excuse, to be honest, because I was just so it was so overwhelming to be alone that I just wanted to experience it fully and not have my parents included in every little thing. And I think I hid a lot from them, mainly about like how badly I was like taking care of myself, for example, and all of that. And maybe the fact that I didn't talk to them that much is what allowed me to wallow more in that like negative behavior, because if I talk to them more, which I do now, like now I just tell them everything. I don't know if it's good or bad, because sometimes it's not great. Like it can make you feel a little bit like questioning a lot of your decisions and all of that, and maybe they are more scared than you, so like you're not like making all the bold choices you could make. So yeah, like take their advice, but with a grain of salt. But at least tell them everything. If you have a good relationship with your parents, of course. Like all of this, like everything we've been saying so far is about like people who have a decent relationship with their parents. Because I think for people who have not that great of a
They just
relationship,
want
it's
to
just
move
like
out.
not a choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not. I mean, once again, privilege. But yeah, like I'm saying, I speak a lot more to my parents now, and it's just like it's a moral compass in a way, because
Yeah.
you just don't want to like call them at the end of the day and say you didn't do anything today, or like you didn't um or you have nothing good to tell them, or you, I don't know, like it just makes me want to do more things, because I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I'll call my parents at the end of the day and tell
Yeah.
them that. Like I'm not necessarily doing it for them, but it is a positive moral compass to have if you have a good relationship with your parents. Like I would
Yeah.
encourage talking to them
Yeah.
as much as possible, telling them everything. In a way, I think I'm closer to my parents than if I stayed in Morocco, because when you think about it, like when we call our parents here and we have like those FaceTime or WhatsApp video conversations, it's like maybe 1 hour, half an hour of like a very focused conversation and back to back, which is not something we would have done if we were living together. That's like, I kept thinking about that when I came back during Ramadan. Like I was there for the whole month, and I just realized I'm talking to my parents less now that I am living with them, that
You have
when I'm
nothing to tell
abroad.
them.
Yeah, like, because they see you every day, so we're not gonna ask you like, how's your day, what did you do today, and because they are like, you are there physically, and so the
They're feeding
conversation,
you.
yeah, like the conversation is just like around like, oh, go pick up this thing,
How's
or
the
like,
weather?
yeah, let's just cook this, or like
Yeah.
classic. I mean, nothing, like no emotion, no feelings,
Yeah.
no how did this go, no, like I feel like we're having deeper conversations by being away from each other than by living together. Because I swear that whole month, I barely had any conversations with my parents. Like we would have, of course, like we were exchanging talks, but it wasn't as deep as when I'm like here and I'm calling them and we're like dissecting everything in my day and what they like, who and whatever happened in theirs, and it was just like more concise and like deeper and more meaningful. And I'm so grateful that I have this like kind of relationship with my parents, because I don't think I would have built this type of relationship if I stayed in Morocco. I think I would just be, like more aloof maybe, or not telling them everything. Um, Not because I don't trust them, but it's just like it would be like the norm. Just
If
because
you're
you see
living in the
them,
same house,
yeah,
you mean?
you see them, yeah, you see them every day, so you're not gonna sit down and be like.
For sure.
I mean, it depends on the people, but for me personally, like I think I built a better relationship with my parents by being away from them. And sometimes with certain families, like that's how it works. I feel like even with my brother, we still live in the same city, but now that we don't live in the same apartment, we have a better relationship. Like today, he was at my place and we are just like laughing and talking.
Yeah.
And when we were together, it was like we never made up plans to do fun things outside of the home together, like going to dinner together, going to a festival together. Like we would never make these plans because I'm just like seeing you every day. Like I don't want to make plans with you again.
I guess
So
so.
like it's just like I eat with you every day. Like we don't need to go out and eat. But like now that we don't live together, I feel like we have more quality time. And people don't like, this is also an advantage of living
That's
alone.
true.
Like don't think that it's gonna destroy your relationship with your family. Maybe it can even make it stronger. So just want to put this out there.
That's a very, very good point. I do think by being apart, sometimes we get closer.